Greetings, citizens from the rolling hills of the bluegrass. It was, I don't know, many years ago, the early 2000s, that I remember sitting down and watching an interview that had apparently taken place on TV with Jay Leno. And it was really interesting because he had, this is of course whenever he, had kind of floated the idea of retiring, and they were talking to him about his car collection. And I thought it was interesting that he made it a point to single out that he had these little wind turbines all over the top of his warehouse where he kept all of his cars. And he used that to offset his power consumption, and to bring down the costs, he invested in these little wind turbines. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's going to be great whenever that hits the greater populace, because you could imagine every house having one or two of these little wind turbines attached to the side of them. In every house, just have them, and it just offsets the electricity cost just a little bit. It wouldn't have to be everything. I was like, that was amazing. That is great. I like that. But of course, this is during the time frame when I've been neoconned, right? I wasn't paying attention to everything that was going on. And as the years have progressed, you realize that those kinds of little technologies have not made it to market. And you wonder and you ask yourself why. Well, if it's the market and you believe in the free market, they're not economically feasible. But what if there is something else going on? And this is very pertinent to the now with the whole COVID issue in California. And you have these brownouts and these rolling blackouts, and how the politicians, the leaders, have told people that you may just want to get used to this, that this is going to be the norm now. And then if you do not accept their coronavirus mandates, if you do not accept their prescriptions, there will be consequences. If you have too many people at your home and not enough masks are being worn by the people there, then they might cut off your power. They might cut off your water. And the question becomes, well, who are they to do that in my own home? Do you even actually own your home then at that rate? Because if they can come in and say, you can't have these people here, well then how much power have you actually given these politicians? How much power have you given these utilities? And that's one of the reasons why utilities, the power grid, the very thing that keeps this modern world afloat. Because you've got to remember, several years ago in the 1990s here in this area, we had a massive snowstorm, and it ruined us for 2 whole weeks. And I mean, if you didn't have a gas operated oven, you didn't cook. Because we had no electricity. And when you read by lamplight, when it's cold, you realize just how close to the 1800s we are. We are one power outage away from being right back in the 1800s. One power outage. One. And it's because of the centralized grid. It had its purpose. It had its time and point when it was great and necessary and needed. But we're starting to see the flaws of centralized power in all forms, both electrical and political. Because they can come into your home and say, you are no longer allowed to have water. You are no longer allowed to have electricity. If you don't have electricity, you don't have air. You don't have your cell phone. You don't have your computer. You cannot connect to the internet. You cannot listen to videos like this without electricity. And it was pointed out several years ago to me that we have never left the age of steam. We've advanced it, but for the most part, most of the electricity that comes into our homes is still created by turbines. And those turbine fans are moved by steam. It all then just becomes a question of what are you burning? What are you using to cause the water to boil that moves the turbine fans? We've never left the age of steam. Right? The image there is of someone shoveling coal into a furnace and the billowing plumes coming out of the top of a locomotive. But we've never left that. We've changed how and where we accrue that steam power, but in the end, we've never left it. We have small generators that run on gasoline, but if you were going to use gasoline to power the grid, you would need to raid every oil-rich country in the world just to take care of America. And you've still got China and India out there, let alone the rest of the world, that would need gasoline on a large amount. So this is one of the things where the power grid, it's an accepted gatekeeper. Because we need them. Because without them, we're back in the 1800s. And this is where I wish someone like Elon Musk, I'm really glad that he's looking to space. He's looking to Mars. That's wonderful. But if he would turn his ingenuity, his companies, towards creating small home-based power generators, and we start pulling people out of the grid and getting them self-sufficient on their land, the idea of a rolling blackout affecting everybody would go away. Because then the blackout would be centralized, one or two people, 3 or 4 houses maybe, instead of having to take everyone down. But that's also community. That's the point. That's the collectivization. Group everyone together, smash them in there, cram them into one idea, one place, one physical locality. Make them dependent on one another. Turn them into a cog so that they can't escape. Because if you want to be independent, then the first place you need to be independent is in the very home that you live. But if you've got water coming in, if you've got electricity coming in, you can't be. Gas, even. You can't be independent. You have to go outside. You have to move beyond where you are. And that's the reason why I support renewable energies. It's not just an environmental thing, which is a positive, but it's also an independence thing. If you can make your electricity on your property, if you can store water on your property, then why do you need them? And that's a very good question. Why do we need these politicians, these utilities? Oh, because they need a reason to be. They need a reason to exist. And one of the wonderful things about gatekeepers is they make you realize you need them. You have to pass through their archway. You must. And if you stop doing that, if you become self-reliant, well, you're some kind of pariah. You're some type of other. Why do you not want to be with us? Why do you feel that you are important enough that you don't need anybody else? And that's got to be explained there, because I don't think you don't need anybody else, but it should be your choice to need other people. If you are forced to need other people, well, you're just going to build resentment. And whenever the rolling blackouts come, you're going to get angry, and you're going to go and yell at somebody who unfortunately is just doing their job. But their job perpetuates the collectivization. Well, you have to come here for water. You have to come here for electricity. You need to get people on their own feet. You have to stop the gatekeepers from closing the gate.